The emerald canopy of Xylos pulsed with bioluminescent light, casting an ethereal glow across the forest floor. This remote planet existed in splendid isolation from the rest of the galaxy, its unique atmosphere making conventional approach nearly impossible. In this distant future, interstellar travel had become commonplace, yet Xylos remained an enigma, a jewel untouched by outside influence. Lyra moved gracefully through the undergrowth, her jade skin blending with the foliage around her. She belonged to the Sylvans, a tribe that lived in harmony with the forest. Her emerald hair was braided with glowing vines that illuminated her amber eyes as she searched for rare medicinal herbs. Like most of her people, Lyra possessed extensive knowledge of botany and traditional Xylan medicine, though she remained innocently unaware of extraplanetary cultures. That morning, Lyra had ventured farther than usual, drawn by rumors of a rare healing plant that bloomed only once every lunar cycle. She hummed softly, fingers brushing against leaves that responded to her touch with gentle pulses of light. The Sylvans believed in the interconnection of all living things, and Lyra's deep connection to the forest was evident in the way the plants seemed to reach for her. Several miles away, the tranquility of Xylos had been violently disrupted. A small spacecraft, bearing the insignia of Novacorp Interstellar, had crashed through the atmospheric barrier, leaving a smoking trail across the pristine sky before embedding itself in the soft earth. Inside the damaged vessel, Jack's rider regained consciousness slowly, his head throbbing from the impact. At 30 years old, Jax had spent the last decade as a pilot and scientist for Novacorp, exploring the furthest reaches of charted space. His mission to study the unusual atmosphere properties of Xylos had gone catastrophically wrong when his ship's systems had failed during approach. But the crash wasn't entirely accidental. He had deliberately altered his course upon discovering something disturbing in Novacorp's classified files. Jax unbuckled himself from the pilot's seat, wincing at the sharp pain in his left arm. Definitely broken. Blood trickled from various cuts across his face and body. He needed to assess the damage to his communications equipment and determine if rescue was possible. Though considering what he now knew about Commandant Corvus's plans for this planet, rescue might be the last thing he wanted. When the strange sound first reached Lyra's ears, she froze. It was unlike anything she had heard before, a mechanical wailing followed by a thunderous impact that shook the ground beneath her feet. The forest around her dimmed momentarily, as if in pain, before resuming its luminous pulse. Something was wrong. The elders spoke of ancient prophecies about dangers from beyond the sky, but Lyra had always considered them mere cautionary tales. Curiosity overcame caution. She changed direction, moving swiftly through the undergrowth toward the source of the disturbance. The plants guided her, their glow intensifying along a path that led to a clearing she had never seen before. Here, the lush vegetation had been violently pushed aside, scorched earth forming a long, ugly scar that ended at a smoking metal object unlike anything in Lyra's experience. She approached cautiously, her amber eyes wide with wonder and apprehension. Was this the danger the elders warned about? Or perhaps a gift from the celestial beings her people sometimes spoke of in hushed tones? As she circled the strange object, she noticed a section had split open, revealing a dark interior. And there, collapsed half outside the opening, lay a creature. Lyra's initial instinct was to flee, but something held her back. The creature looked wounded. Despite its strange appearance, skin a pale color she had never seen before, lacking the natural luminescence of her people, there was something unmistakably alive about it. And in the tradition of the Sylvans, all life was sacred. She knelt beside the unconscious form, noting with fascination the differences between them. The creature had no visible light patterns beneath its skin, no natural harmony with the forest around it. Yet its basic shape was similar to her own. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head with features not entirely unlike a Xylan's. When Lyra noticed the blood, red, not the shimmering blue of her people, she made her decision. Wounded or not, strange or not, this being needed help. She began examining the creature methodically, using her knowledge of Xylan physiology as a guide. The left upper limb appeared broken, and numerous lacerations covered its body. She carefully checked for other injuries, working her way down the torso. It was then that she noticed something alarming, a strange swelling between the creature's legs, visible through the torn fabric of its clothing. Nothing like this existed in Xylan male anatomy, which was much more subtle and internal, except during specific seasonal changes. To Lyra's medically trained eye, this appeared to be severe inflammation, perhaps caused by the impact or some internal injury. Concerned that this swelling might indicate life-threatening damage, Lyra immediately reached in her gathering pouch for a cooling leaf, a special Xylan plant known for its anti-inflammatory properties. She carefully applied the leaf to the swollen area and began a gentle massage, a standard Xylan medical technique for reducing inflammation. To Lyra's surprise, the swelling seemed to increase rather than decrease under her ministrations. Even more alarmingly, the creature began to stir, its breathing pattern changing. Worried that she might be causing harm, she continued more gently, determined to help this strange visitor. Jax drifted slowly back to consciousness, aware first of pain throughout his body, then of something else, a sensation that, in his injured state, took several moments to process. When his mind finally cleared enough to comprehend what was happening, his eyes flew open in shock. Looming over him was a creature straight out of a storybook, a humanoid with green skin and glowing amber eyes, its hair woven with bioluminescent tendrils. And this creature's hand was currently applying something cool and tingling to his groin while performing what appeared to be some kind of massage. "What the hell?" Jack shouted, scrambling backward despite the pain shooting through his broken arm. The sudden movement caused the alien to jump back as well, its eyes wide with what might have been surprise or fear. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, the forest pulsing with light around them in what seemed to Jax like synchronization with his racing heartbeat. The alien spoke, its voice melodic but completely unintelligible. Jax fumbled at his belt for his universal translator, relieved to find it still intact. He switched it on, hoping it could process this new language. I don't understand you," he said slowly. The alien tilted its head, studying him with those luminous amber eyes. Then it spoke again, and this time the translator processed the sounds, converting them to somewhat stilted English. "You hurt. Help. Swelling. Dangerous." The alien pointed hesitantly toward Jax's lower body. Understanding dawned on Jax, bringing with it a wave of embarrassment so intense he felt his face burn. No, it's not what you think. It's not an injury. It's normal human anatomy. For males." He struggled to explain, acutely aware of the absurdity of having this conversation with an alien while bleeding from multiple wounds on an unknown planet. The alien, clearly female, Jax now realized, looked confused, then horrified as comprehension seemed to dawn. She stepped back further, her hands covering her mouth, luminous patterns beneath her skin flaring with what Jax interpreted as embarrassment. Sorry, she said through the translator. "Not no human. Different." Despite the pain and the dire situation, Jax couldn't help but laugh. A short, breathless sound that was equal parts shock, relief, and genuine amusement. "It's okay," he managed. "You couldn't have known. We're very different species, apparently." The tension broke slightly. The alien female approached again, more cautiously this time, and pointed to his obviously broken arm. "This hurt. I help." Jax nodded, deciding to trust this strange being who, despite the awkward first encounter, seemed genuinely concerned for his welfare. "Yes, it's broken. My name is Jax, by the way. I'm human." "Lyra," she responded, pointing to herself. "Sylvan. Xylan." She reached into her pouch again, this time pulling out various leaves and what appeared to be a small container of luminous paste. With gentle efficiency that spoke of considerable medical knowledge, she began treating his wounds. As she worked, Jax tried to explain his presence. "My ship, the metal thing, it crashed. I was studying your planet's atmosphere. Ship? Like water boat? Lyra asked, carefully splinting his arm with what felt like extraordinarily strong yet flexible plant material. No, like skyboat, spaceboat. Jack struggled to find words the translator could convey meaningfully. I come from another world, a planet like Xylos, but very different. Lyra's eyes widened at this, her movements momentarily pausing. You, star person? Elders speak of such. Say dangerous. Not dangerous, Jax assured her quickly. Just different. Then he remembered why he had crashed, and his expression darkened. Though there are dangerous humans coming, bad people want to harm your world. Lyra's brow furrowed as she processed this. Why harm Xylos? Jax hesitated, unsure how to explain corporate greed and resource exploitation to someone from a culture that clearly lived in harmony with its environment. They want something from your world. Energy. Power. They don't care if they hurt Xylos too. Get it? Before he could elaborate, a distant sound caught their attention, a mechanical humming that Jax recognized immediately. His blood ran cold. Nova Corp ships. Looking for me. He struggled to stand, fighting through the pain. I need to hide. They can't find what I'm carrying. What carry? Lyra asked, helping him up with surprising strength. Information. Proof of what they plan to do to your world. He patted a secure pocket in his flight suit. Data that could stop them. Lyra seemed to make a decision. She pointed toward the deeper forest. Gulme. My village. Hidden. Safe. Jax hesitated only briefly before nodding. Lead the way. Moving deeper into the forest, Jax marveled at how the bioluminescent flora responded to Lyra's presence, brightening as she passed, as if lighting their path. The translator at his belt occasionally caught phrases as she spoke, either to him or to the forest itself. He wasn't entirely sure. Forest knows. Helps us hide, she explained, guiding him over a particularly dense patch of undergrowth. Your hunters have machine eyes? See heat. Thermal imaging, yes, Jax confirmed, impressed by her intuitive understanding. And motion sensors, atmosphere analyzers. Lyra nodded as if this confirmed something. Forest can confuse. Many heat sources, many movements, many smells. She pointed upward to where floating spores drifted through the air, each pulsing with its own gentle light. These change air. Hide us. As they moved deeper into the forest, the mechanical humming faded behind them. Jax caught glimpses of strange wildlife. Iridescent creatures that seemed to phase between solid and liquid states, tiny flying beings that looked like miniature dragons with multiple wings, plant-animal hybrids that defied categorization. Your world is incredible, he murmured, momentarily forgetting his pain and the danger pursuing them. Lyra smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her alien features into something Jax found unexpectedly beautiful. Xylos is life, all connected. She placed a hand against a massive tree trunk, and pulsing light spread outward from her touch. We speak to Forest. Forest speaks to us. Their journey grew more challenging as the terrain became steeper. Jax struggled with his injured arm, and Lyra noticed his difficulty. Without a word, she slipped beneath his good arm, supporting his weight. The closeness allowed Jax to notice more details about his rescuer. The intricate patterns of light beneath her jade skin, the complex braiding of her living hair, the subtle floral scent that surrounded her. Thank you, he said simply, for helping me, especially after I reacted badly to your medical assistance. Lyra's skin brightened slightly in what Jax was beginning to recognize as a blush. Misunderstanding. Funny now. She paused, seeming to search for words. Human males and females very different? Anatomically? Yes, Jax answered, finding the scientific discussion easier than he expected. More different than among your people, I'm guessing. Sylvan males, females similar, she confirmed. Small differences. Change only for mating season. Before Jax could respond to this intriguing anthropological detail, Lyra suddenly froze, raising a hand for silence. Faintly, but growing louder, came the buzz of what Jax recognized as Nova Corp drones. They're using search patterns, he whispered. Systematic grid search. Lyra pointed urgently to a dense thicket of what appeared to be fern-like plants. Hide. These mask heat. They ducked into the undergrowth just as a drone hovered overhead, its scanning beam sweeping the area. Jax held his breath, acutely aware of how close discovery might be. The drone paused, its sensors seemingly confused by the multiple heat signatures of the bioluminescent life all around them. After what felt like an eternity, it moved on, continuing its programmed search pattern. That was too close, Jax breathed once the drone was out of earshot. They're looking for my ship's data core, but they'll settle for finding me. Who leads hunters? Lyra asked as they cautiously emerged from hiding. Commandant Corvus, ComCore, everyone calls him, head of Nova Corp's Resource Acquisition Division. Jax's voice hardened. A man who sees your world as nothing but a resource to exploit. They continued their journey, more cautiously now, using every natural feature for cover. Jax explained more about Nova Corp and his discovery of their plans as they traveled. I was supposed to be conducting atmospheric analysis only, standard procedure before any potential contact mission. But I found encrypted files, plans for a massive extraction operation. They've discovered something about your world's bioluminescent ecosystem, a unique energy signature that could be weaponized or used as an unprecedented power source. The heart of Xylos, Lyra whispered, her expression grave. What's that? Jax asked. Sacred center, where all life light begins. She gestured to the glowing patterns beneath her skin, then to the luminous forest around them. Source of connection. Elders say if heart dims, all Xylos dies. The implications hit Jax like a physical blow. That's what ComCore wants to extract. He doesn't care that it would destroy the entire ecosystem, the entire planet. When I found out, I tried to transmit the data to Nova Corp's Ethics Committee, but ComCore intercepted the transmission. I had to run, but my ship was damaged during escape. I crashed here while trying to find a way to expose his plans. Lyra was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Finally, she spoke, her voice determined. We reach village soon. Elders must know, especially Elder Alara. She knows old ways, old protections. As the day wore on, the forest changed, the trees growing taller and wider. Jax began to notice subtle signs of habitation, paths that seemed too regular to be natural, certain plants that appeared to be cultivated rather than wild. Then Lyra stopped at the base of a colossal tree that dwarfed all others around it. Look up, she instructed. Jax tilted his head back and gasped. Above them, seamlessly integrated with the massive branches, was an entire village, dwellings constructed of living wood and luminous fibers, connected by bridges of woven vines and platforms that seemed to grow naturally from the tree itself. The entire structure pulsed with the same bioluminescent light as the rest of the forest, making it nearly invisible unless one knew exactly what to look for. You're home, he breathed. It's beautiful. Sylvan Village, Lyra confirmed. One of many in Great Forest. She placed her hand on a specific pattern in the tree bark, and a section of the trunk reconfigured itself, revealing a spiral staircase growing within the living wood. Kulme. Meet elders. The ascent was difficult with Jax's injuries, but Lyra supported him patiently. As they emerged onto a wide platform high in the canopy, Jax became acutely aware of being watched. Sylvans appeared from dwellings and walkways, their amber eyes fixed on him with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. They were similar to Lyra in their jade skin and luminous patterns, though with considerable individual variation. Some had hair that seemed composed entirely of living vines. Others had more elaborate light patterns or slightly different physical features. All shared the same profound connection to their environment that Jax had observed in Lyra. A tall, imposing Sylvan male stepped forward, his posture radiating challenge. Unlike Lyra's flowing garments woven from plant fibers, he wore minimal clothing that revealed intricate warrior markings across his muscular chest and arms. Kale, Lyra addressed him, her tone cautious but firm. I found Star Traveler. Hurt. Needs help. Kale's response came through Jax's translator as contemptuous. Bring danger to village. Outsiders destroy. Always destroy. Not destroy, Lyra countered. Warns of danger. Others come. Bad ones. Want heart of Xylos. This caused a stir among the gathered Sylvans. From among them emerged an older female, her jade skin crisscrossed with elaborate patterns that spoke of great age and wisdom. Her hair was a crown of ancient, gnarled vines that pulsed with a steady, gentle light. Elder Alara, Lyra said respectfully, inclining her head. The elder studied Jax with eyes that seemed to see through him. When she spoke, her voice carried authority that needed no translation. Bring the Star Traveler to the council chamber. Let him speak his warning to all who should hear. Kale began to protest, but Alara silenced him with a gesture. Fear of difference is not wisdom, young warrior. True wisdom knows when to listen. The council chamber turned out to be the hollowed center of the great tree itself, a vast space where the living would have been shaped into a natural amphitheater. Bioluminescent fungi provided soft lighting, and the air was perfumed with exotic flowers that grew from the walls. Various elders and important members of the tribe gathered, sitting on curved benches that seemed to grow directly from the floor. Jax stood in the center with Lyra, acutely aware of being the focus of so many alien gazes. With Lyra translating to supplement his partially functioning universal translator, he explained everything. His mission, his discovery of Comcor's plans, the danger to the heart of Xylos, and his crashed escape attempt. When he finished, the chamber erupted in a cacophony of melodic Xylan voices. Elder Alara raised her hands for silence, then addressed Jax directly. Show evidence of these claims. Jax produced a small data crystal from his secure pocket. It's all here. The extraction plans, the weaponization research, the projected acceptable losses to Xylos' ecosystem. His voice turned bitter on the last words. Although the Sylvans had no technology to read the crystal, Alara surprised Jax by producing a small, living organism from a pouch at her waist, something between a plant and an animal that glowed with exceptional brightness. When she placed it near the crystal, the creature's luminescence changed color, pulsing in complex patterns. It senses truth, Alara announced after studying the patterns. The crystal holds great danger. The Star Traveler speaks honestly. Kale stepped forward, his posture still aggressive. Even if truth, why help? His kind brings this threat. Send away, fight ourselves. We cannot fight technology we do not understand, Alara countered. And the Star Traveler risked his life to warn us. Honor demands we listen. The debate continued, with the tribe clearly divided. Some sided with Kale's isolationist stance, while others, particularly the younger Sylvans, were curious about Jax and willing to accept his help. Through it all, Lyra remained by his side, occasionally adding her own perspective when the discussion touched on matters she had first-hand knowledge of, properly and bound with living fibers that seemed to accelerate healing. His cuts were cleaned and sealed with the same luminous paste Lyra had applied earlier, which Jax learned was a symbiotic organism that promoted rapid cell regeneration while preventing infection. As night fell, the forest's bioluminescence intensified, compensating for the loss of sunlight. Jax was provided with comfortable quarters, a small but elegant space where plants grew to form natural furniture, including a surprisingly comfortable bed of moss-like material. Exhaustion finally caught up with him, and despite the alien environment and looming danger, he fell into a deep sleep. He dreamed of jade skin glowing with intricate patterns of light, amber eyes that saw through to his soul, and a voice that seemed to resonate with the very essence of life itself. Morning brought new urgency. Novacorp drones had been spotted at the forest's edge, systematically mapping the terrain. Lookouts reported heavily armed teams beginning ground searches, using equipment to detect energy signatures similar to those at Jax's crash site. In Alara's chamber, Jax, Lyra, and the Elder pored over the ancient texts, seeking clearer instructions for the connection ritual. Jax had repurposed parts of his universal translator to help interpret the oldest glyphs, combining technology with Alara's traditional knowledge. The ritual must be performed at the Echo Cavern, Ilara translated from one particularly ancient tablet. Where the heart's voice resonates strongest. I know this place, Lyra said. Sacred ground, deep in forest, where great crystals grow from living stone. The text described a union of energies, Jax added, studying the translations his device produced. A synchronization of life force between different beings, creating a harmonious resonance that strengthens the heart rather than depleting it. Union how? Lyra asked, her amber eyes meeting his. Jax hesitated, suddenly aware of potential implications. It's not entirely clear. Some kind of deep connection, physically and spiritually. The participants become conduits for the heart's energy, amplifying and protecting it rather than extracting. Ilara studied them both with knowing eyes. Such a connection requires great trust, openness of spirit, willingness to blend essences in ways beyond ordinary understanding. Before they could delve deeper, a commotion outside drew their attention. Kale burst into the chamber, his light patterns pulsing with alarm. NovaCorp hunters approach. Use flying machines to search from above. Have found outer markers. Ilara rose with surprising agility for her apparent age. How much time? Hours only, Kale reported grimly. They have devices that disable our natural camouflage. See-through tree canopy. Jax's mind raced. Infrared and quantum resonance scanners. They're tracking the signature of the heart itself. He turned to Ilara. We need to perform the ritual now, before they locate the heart. Without full understanding? Dangerous, Ilara cautioned. More dangerous to wait, Lyra countered, her expression resolute. I will do ritual with Jax. Together, we protect heart. Kale's light patterns flared with what Jax interpreted as jealousy and anger. Outsider, not worthy of sacred ritual. Not worthy of... He stopped abruptly, but his gaze at Lyra completed the thought. Not your decision, Kale, Lyra said gently but firmly. Mine. For Xylos. Ilara intervened before the tension could escalate further. Lyra speaks truth. Ancient texts say ritual requires willing hearts, deep connection, different energies joined as one. She gazed steadily at Lyra and Jax. I sense this potential between you. Perhaps not by chance did you find each other. The decision was made. Ilara provided what guidance she could based on the incomplete texts, while Kale, still obviously unhappy but acknowledging the necessity, agreed to lead the village's warriors in defense against the approaching NovaCorp forces. By time, Ilara instructed him. Delay only. Do not risk lives unnecessarily. As preparations were made, Jax pulled Kale aside for a private word. I understand your feelings for Lyra, he said directly, and your distrust of me makes sense. But believe this, I want to protect Xylos as much as you do. Not just because it's the right thing, but because... He trailed off, unable to fully articulate the connection he already felt to this world and one of its inhabitants in particular. Kale studied him intently, the luminous patterns beneath his skin shifting through complex emotions. Finally, he gave a curt nod. Protect her. Protect heart. Or I find you across stars to end you. Understood, Jax replied simply. The journey to the Echo Cavern required stealth and speed. Lyra led the way, with Jax following as best he could despite his injuries. They traveled deeper into the forest than Jax had yet ventured, where the trees grew so ancient and massive that they created a world unto themselves. Here, the bioluminescence took on new qualities, pulsing in synchronized waves, creating harmonies of light that seemed almost musical in their complexity. Close to heart, Lyra explained as they navigated this living cathedral. Energy stronger here, more connected. Jax could feel it, a vibration that seemed to resonate within his own body, growing stronger as they proceeded. It wasn't unpleasant. Rather, it felt somehow right, as if he were approaching something fundamentally harmonious with life itself. As they traveled, Lyra shared more about the heart of Xylos, how it was believed to be the primordial source of all life on the planet, a symbiotic entity that had evolved alongside the various species, binding them together in mutual support and communication. The Sylvans were its caretakers, those most attuned to its rhythms and needs. Not gods, she emphasized. Partners. Heart gives life. We protect heart. Balance. Meanwhile, at the village, Kale led the Sylvan warriors in implementing elaborate defenses. Technical biological traps designed to confuse and disable NovaCorp's technology rather than harm the humans directly. However, as he worked, a dark thought took root in his mind. If the outsiders were driven away, Jax would leave with them. Lyra would be safe. The village would be safe, and things could return to how they were before. In a moment of terrible misjudgment born of fear and jealousy, Kale slipped away from the defense preparations. Using knowledge gained from studying Jax's universal translator, he managed to activate an emergency beacon from equipment salvaged from Jax's crash site. His plan was simple: signal a specific NovaCorp team, lead them to capture Jax, and ensure they left Xylos afterward, taking their disruptive influence with them. What Kale didn't understand was that all NovaCorp communications were now being monitored by ComCorp personally. The signal didn't reach a regular search team. It reached ComCorp himself, who immediately recognized its significance and redirected his elite forces toward the source. As Lyra and Jax finally reached the Echo Cavern, they were unaware of this betrayal. The cavern entrance was hidden behind a cascading curtain of bioluminescent vines that parted at Lyra's touch. Inside, the sight took Jax's breath away. The cavern was enormous, its walls lined with crystal formations that caught and amplified the natural bioluminescence, creating a symphony of light that danced across every surface. At the center was a pool of what appeared to be liquid light, a glowing, pulsating substance that seemed alive in a way Jax couldn't articulate. "The heart," he whispered. Lyra shook her head. "Reflection only. True heart deeper, center a planet. This connection point, where heart speaks clearest." Following Alara's instructions, they began preparing for the ritual. Lyra created a circle around the pool using specially gathered plants and crystals, while Jax used his limited technical knowledge to set up an early warning system that would alert them if NovaCorp forces approached. As they worked, the tension between them grew, not uncomfortable, but charged with something neither fully understood. The translator struggled with the complex emotional and spiritual concepts Lyra tried to explain about the ritual. "Connection requires opening," she attempted to clarify. "Barriers between must dissolve. Energy flows together, becomes one current. A kind of spiritual synchronization," Jack suggested, trying to frame it in terms he could comprehend. "Yes, but also physical," Lyra added, her skin brightening. "Life energy flows through body. Physical connection strengthens spiritual bond." The implication hung between them, neither wanting to presume too much. Finally, Jack spoke directly. "Lyra, I need to be sure. This ritual, what exactly does it entail between us?" Lyra met his gaze steadily. "Deep connection. Minds, bodies, energies. Like mating, but more. Deeper. Not just physical joy, but spiritual binding. And you're willing to do this? With me?" he asked, searching her luminous eyes. "An outsider you barely know?" Her response was simple but profound. "Know your heart. Feel your truth. Rest is details." The moment was interrupted by a sudden alert from Jax's makeshift warning system. NovaCorp forces were approaching rapidly, and they weren't using the careful search patterns of before. They were coming directly to the cavern. "They know where we are," Jax realized aloud. But how? Before they could consider the implications, the sound of energy weapons discharging echoed from outside the cavern. The Sylvan defenders had engaged the NovaCorp forces, but from the sounds of the battle, they were outmatched by superior technology. "We must complete ritual," Lyra urged. Now, before too late. They took positions on opposite sides of the glowing pool, following the ancient instructions as best they could interpret them. As they began the ritual, joining hands across the luminous water, the entire cavern seemed to respond. The crystals pulsing brighter, the pool between them swirling with increased energy. Jax felt a strange sensation, as if the boundaries of his body were becoming less defined, his consciousness expanding to encompass more than just himself. Across from him, Lyra's jade skin glowed with extraordinary brilliance, the patterns beneath shifting into new configurations he hadn't seen before. Outside the cavern, the battle intensified. Elder Alara had joined the defense, bringing with her knowledge of the forest that even other Sylvans lacked. Under her guidance, the defenders managed to hold back the Novacorp forces temporarily, using the living environment as both shield and weapon. But they hadn't counted on Comcor himself leading the assault. Clad in advanced battle armor incorporating technology specifically designed to counter Xylos' natural defenses, the Commandant cut through the Sylvan lines with ruthless efficiency. His objective was clear: reach the heart, secure the extraction point, eliminate all resistance. Inside the cavern, Jax and Lyra had progressed to the most intimate stage of the ritual. Their consciousness had begun to merge, allowing each to experience the other's perspective in flashes of profound connection. Jax felt the living pulse of Xylos through Lyra's innate bond with the planet, while she glimpsed the vast cosmos through his experiences as a star traveler. The physical aspect of their connection was equally intense, not merely sexual, though that element existed, but a true melding of energy and essence. The boundaries between them continued to blur as the ritual approached its culmination. It was at this crucial moment that disaster struck. Comcor blasted through the final defenses, breaching the cavern entrance with a squad of elite troops. The sudden intrusion shattered the delicate, energetic field Jax and Lyra had been building, sending painful feedback through their partially merged consciousness. How touching! Comcor's voice echoed through the cavern as he surveyed the scene with cold amusement. The traitor scientist and his alien paramour, attempting some primitive ritual. His battle armor hummed with power as he approached the pool of living light. Thank you for leading us directly to the primary extraction point. Saves us considerable surveying time. Jax struggled to his feet, disoriented from the abrupt severing of the ritual connection. Comcor, you don't understand what you're doing. This isn't just an energy source. It's the living heart of an entire ecosystem, an entire civilization. I understand perfectly, Comcor replied, his voice devoid of empathy. One planet's life force for unlimited power. A simple equation of value. He signaled to his technicians. Begin extraction setup. Lyra launched herself at the nearest technician, her movements blindingly fast, fueled by desperation to protect the heart. Two more Sylvan defenders burst into the cavern. One of them, Kale, his face a mask of regret and determination. Seeing Lyra in danger had apparently awakened him to the terrible error of his betrayal. Lyra, he called out, forgive me. I led them here, thinking. His confession was cut short as Comcor casually fired a pulse from his armor's integrated weapon system, sending Kale crashing against the crystalline wall. Kale, Lyra cried, momentarily distracted. That split second of inattention allowed Comcor to seize her. His armor-enhanced strength easily, subduing her despite her fierce struggle. A fascinating specimen, he remarked coldly. The Bioresearch Division will be pleased to have a living sample to study after we've harvested the primary energy source. Jax charged forward, but Novacorp troops intercepted him, restraining him as Comcor's technicians finished assembling their extraction device, a sinister apparatus that they positioned at the edge of the luminous pool. When activated, it began to draw the living light into itself, storing it in containment cells designed for weapons applications. The effect was immediate and horrifying. Throughout the cavern, the bioluminescence dimmed, as if in pain. The crystals that had shone so brilliantly began to dull, and even Lyra's skin patterns flickered weakly. Outside, Jax could imagine the same effect spreading through the forest, the light of Xylos being drained away to fuel Comcor's ambitions. Stop this, Jax shouted, struggling against his captors. You're killing an entire world. Acceptable collateral damage. Comcor responded indifferently, checking readings on his armor's display. The extraction is proceeding even more efficiently than projected. In that moment of despair, Jax's eyes met Lyra's across the cavern. Despite her weakened state, he saw in her amber gaze not defeat, but determination. Something passed between them. A wordless communication, a fragment of the connection they had begun to forge in the ritual. Understanding bloomed in Jax's mind. The ritual hadn't failed. It had merely been interrupted. Their energies had already begun to synchronize, to harmonize. Perhaps they could still complete what they had started, even separated physically. Focusing all his will, Jax reached out with his consciousness, seeking that tenuous connection with Lyra. To his amazement, he found it, a gossamer thread of shared energy that still linked them despite Comcor's interference. Across the cavern, Lyra's eyes widened as she felt his presence. She too concentrated, strengthening the bond from her side. As their connection re-established itself, something unexpected happened. Kale, who was not dead but gravely injured, dragged himself toward Comcor with the last of his strength. "For Xylos," he gasped, seizing the commandant's legs. For Lyra, the distraction was minimal but sufficient. Comcor's attention diverted momentarily to the dying Sylvan warrior, weakening his grip on Lyra. In that instant, she broke free, lunging not toward freedom but toward Jax. Their hands met across the space between them, clasping with desperate strength. The moment of contact completed the circuit their ritual had begun. Energy surged between them, through them, around them. Not just their own life forces, but the power of the heart itself, responding to their unified will. A pulse of blinding light erupted from their joined hands, expanding outward in a silent shockwave that passed through everything in the cavern. Where it touched NovaCorp technology, systems failed instantly. Comcor's armor froze mid-movement, weapons deactivated, and most critically, the extraction device shut down completely. The pulse continued outward, beyond the cavern, spreading through the forest. NovaCorp troops found their equipment useless, their communications dead, their advantages negated. But the effect went beyond mere technological disruption. The bioluminescence of Xylos, which had been dimming under the extraction's influence, suddenly blazed with renewed vigor, brighter than before, more vibrant, more alive. In the cavern, Comcor struggled against his now immobilized armor, rage contorting his features. "What have you done?" he demanded. Jax himself wasn't entirely sure. He and Lyra stood together at the edge of the luminous pool, their bodies glowing with the same light that filled the heart itself. He felt changed somehow, connected to Xylos in a way that shouldn't have been possible for an outsider. "We completed the ritual," Lyra explained, her voice seeming to come from both her lips and from the very air around them. "Bound outsider to Xylos. Created harmony from discord. Now heart protected. Your technology cannot harm while bond exists." The implications were staggering. The ritual hadn't merely strengthened the heart temporarily. It had fundamentally altered its relationship to non-Xylan technology, rendering it immune to the kind of exploitation Comcor had planned. With Comcor and his forces neutralized, the remaining Sylvan defenders entered the cavern. Elder Alera, though wounded in the battle, surveyed the scene with profound understanding. "The ancient texts spoke truth," she observed. "Different energies joined as one create protection beyond what either could achieve alone." She studied Jax with new respect. "You are bound to Xylos now, Star Traveler." Part of its song. In the aftermath, the NovaCorp forces were detained, their weapons and equipment confiscated. Without functioning technology, they posed no immediate threat. Comcor himself was bound with living vines that responded to Sylvan commands, ensuring he could not escape to resume his plans. Kale, though grievously injured, clung to life. As Lyra tended his wounds, he spoke painfully of his betrayal and regret. "Thought to protect village, protect you, was wrong, selfish. Rest now." Lyra soothed him. "Actions that didn't matter too. You fought for Xylos when truth became clear." Over the following weeks, The Sylvans and their forest home recovered from the invasion. Jax worked to repair his communication equipment, eventually managing to send a targeted message to elements within NovaCorp that opposed Comcor's methods. Ethical scientists and administrators were horrified to learn of the attempted planetary exploitation. The response came more quickly than expected. A small, unarmed vessel arrived in Xylo's orbit, requesting permission to send down a diplomatic team. Alara, now recognized as the primary spokesperson for the Sylvans, granted conditional approval with strict limitations on technology and numbers. The diplomats brought news. Comcor's faction within NovaCorp had been exposed and largely dismantled. His illegal exploitation attempt, combined with his willingness to destroy an entire ecosystem and emerging civilization, had violated numerous interstellar accords. The corporation's legitimate research division proposed a different relationship with Xylos, one of mutual exchange and learning, with absolute guarantees of planetary sovereignty and protection. As the diplomats prepared to depart with Comcor and his captive forces, Jax faced a difficult decision. His original mission was long over. He could return to Earth, to the life he had known before. Yet he had been changed by his experiences on Xylos, by the ritual that had bound him to this world and its heart. On the eve of the departure, Jax stood with Lyra at the edge of the Great Tree Village, gazing out at the bioluminescent forest that pulsed with life. Since completing the ritual, they had developed an ability to communicate without words, sensing each other's thoughts and emotions across surprising distances. "You consider returning," Lyra observed. Not a question, but a statement of what she already knew he was feeling. "I have responsibilities, connections," Jax admitted. "People who might be worried about me. But also new connections here," Lyra responded, her hand finding his. New responsibilities. The ritual had indeed created something permanent between them, a bond that transcended ordinary understanding. They had glimpsed each other's deepest selves, shared consciousness in ways that could never be undone or forgotten. "I don't know if I belong there anymore," Jax confessed. After experiencing this, the connection to life here, to you, to the heart itself, Earth might feel disconnected, isolated, or, Lyra suggested, her amber eyes reflecting the forest glow, you take connection with you. Become bridge between worlds. Help others understand. It was a profound thought that he could serve as an ambassador not just in the political sense, but in a deeper, more fundamental way. Having experienced the profound interconnection of all life on Xylos, perhaps he could help humanity rediscover its own forgotten connections. "And us?" he asked, the question encompassing far more than the two words could normally contain. Lyra's response was equally simple yet profound. "Connection remains. Whatever choice. Distance cannot break what heart has bound." As morning dawned, Jax watched the NovaCorp diplomatic vessel prepare for departure from the edge of the forest clearing. His repaired personal communicator signaled an incoming transmission. The ship was ready to receive him if he chose to return. Elder Alara approached, standing beside him in companionable silence for a moment before speaking. "Great changes come to Xylos. First contact with stars brings both danger and opportunity. I'm sorry for my part in bringing this disruption to your world," Jax said sincerely. "All life is change." Alara responded with the wisdom of her years. Static pool grows stagnant. Flowing water remains fresh. She studied him with her penetrating gaze. "You stand between worlds now. Feet in both streams. Rare perspective." Before Jax could respond, Lyra appeared, accompanied by several young Sylvans, including some who had been most curious about the outsider and his technology. They looked to Jax expectantly, their amber eyes filled with questions about the universe beyond their forest. The moment crystallized Jax's decision. Whether he stayed on Xylos or returned to Earth periodically, his life's purpose had transformed. The bond created in the Echo Cavern had changed him fundamentally, connecting him to this world and its inhabitants in ways that could serve both. For now, at least, he would remain. There was much to teach, much to learn, and a connection to explore that transcended the ordinary boundaries between species, planets, and perhaps even souls. As the Nova Corp vessel departed without him, carrying away the evidence of a failed exploitation and the promise of a different future relationship, Jax turned to Lyra. Their hands found each other naturally, jade fingers intertwining with human ones, a small yet profound symbol of the larger connection they now embodied. Together, they walked back into the luminous forest of Xylos, each step illuminating a path that neither could have imagined before their fateful first encounter. An encounter that began with a simple misunderstanding about strange anatomy and evolved into something that might ultimately help bridge the vast distances between stars.